after I finished my video on the zodiac signs as witches, that reminded me that birthstones also exist. And if you guys don't know what birthstones are, they're quite similar to zodiac signs, and you get assigned one depending on the month that you're born in. So by using this image from Pinterest, I could see that since I was born in March, my birthstone would be Aquamarine, and it represents happiness and youth. And I thought it would be really fun if we could turn these gems into RPG characters. So let's go and get on with the video. Before I start this video, I know that some of you might be thinking, why can't she just redesign Steven Universe characters? And yeah, fair enough, maybe I could have, but to be completely honest with you guys, I've never even seen the show. I only know it because I used to see it in Cartoon Network, but I never really paid attention to it much, and I do see snippets of it in TikTok here and there. So I understand that there's a concept that some characters in there, if not all, represent a certain gemstone, and that's as far as I know. But what I really wanted to do was to personify these gemstones and make it a bit more fun by keeping them in theme, just like what I did for the zodiac signs. All the zodiac signs I have drawn were all a type of witch. So to keep in theme, I thought the theme for this video should be the RPG characters. From what I'm aware, there are different classes of RPG characters. There are normally a lot of classes if you look at games such as Dungeons and Dragons. By the way, I'm a fake fan, I have no idea what that game is about. But if you watch any type of isekai or fantasy animes, you would normally see that there are various classes of characters within those TV shows. So for example, we could see clerics, elves, magicians, witches, we could see goblins, knights, all those kind of characters. So what I was hoping for was I was going to try and find a certain class of RPG character and associate them with the birthstone that I think is most appropriate to them. And in this case, what you could see here is I'm drawing Garnet. Now, according to this image that I found from Pinterest, Garnet represents creativity and healing. So immediately I wanted to find a character that is sort of a healer. So I went to this website called Plarium.com, which has a list of these classes that I could find a description for and kind of make a decision on what kind of healer they would be. And when browsing through, I saw a class called the Clerics class. So apparently the Clerics class differs from other RPG classes, including magicians, and that is because clerics get their powers from God or faith. Sometimes it's a variation of the two, and the magical abilities tend to focus on healing, which is what we were looking for. Frankly enough, there were only two classes within this kind of profession, and that is the Battle Priest or the healer. I didn't really want a healer because that's basically just a white mage, and that's kind of defeating the purpose of a Garnet because Garnets are obviously quite red, and I really like that red color. So I thought a Battle Priest would be a much more suitable type of character for Garnet. And Battle Priests have healing powers, of course, but they can also carry damage. They appear tough and confident, and they usually carry blessed weapons, which what you can see over here that he's holding, it's kind of like a staff that somewhat resembles a cross. I kept his clothing quite simple, and it kind of resembles what a pope would wear. It's quite loose, but I also added a slit in there because I always thought if you are a moving type of character that inflicts damage, you should be able to move quite swiftly as well. So I wouldn't want his clothing to be too restrictive. And the golden crown and jewels that are floating on his head, it's just to resemble the connection between him and the divine spirit, because it's not something usual that you would see on a human. Next up for February, we have Amethyst, and this gem represents power and wisdom. Now, when I was thinking of this character, I was thinking of someone kind of like Gandalf or Dumbledore, wise old wizards. But then after a lot of contemplation, I wasn't really feeling like drawing an old wizard with a long beard. It seems like a very interesting concept. Not gonna lie, it's all fine, but to me, I wasn't feeling it. So then when I looked around for inspiration, I remembered that Nahida from Genshin Impact exists. You know, she's a young looking character. I know she's probably a few thousand years old, but she's a young looking character that also represents wisdom and is actually such a wise and intelligent person herself. So, putting that into perspective, that's what I was going to use as inspiration for Amethyst. Instead of thinking of Amethyst as this powerful old man, instead, Amethyst is a powerful young woman that is also quite wise for someone of her age. And if you watch a lot of fantasy animes, you would see that this kind of trope is actually quite a popular and common trope amongst their characters. You would usually see some 16-year-old kind of leading an army of whatever fantasy characters. So this kind of fits into theme, if I do say so myself. And since I was talking about wizards quite a lot, I wanted to keep her in the magician class, and apparently this is quite a popular option, and typically magicians don't really use weapon and depend more on elements and spells to defeat their enemies. There are 4 classes within this particular class. That's the illusionist, the inherent gift magician, the generalist, and lastly the thegrist, and that's what I was looking for this character. Apparently, a thegrist is a type of magician that forms a contract with some higher spirits in order to gain their powers. So those powers from the spirit then kind of gets given to them, I guess, and whatever powers they have kind of represents what kind of spirit they made a pact with. So for example, if they made a pact with the wind spirit, then a lot of their powers would be wind related, for example. And that idea did provide me with some breathing room when it comes to the creativity part, because in my fantasy world, I think there's a sort of spirit that resembles a hummingbird. She saves that spirit, who then grants her these magical powers that allows her to summon these golden hummingbirds that 1 helps her fight and 2 helps her heal other people. So you could take that as you will in an RPG type world, but later on you would see that I actually try to incorporate the colors of amethyst on her hair as well. So you could see me do that gradient that you could see on amethyst crystals, and typically the gradient goes from a very kind of white cream looking color to a almost deep purple, which is what I've done over there as well. And you can see the finished product over here. I'm so happy with that. I really love the long hair aesthetic, and I think that she definitely makes a really good RPG character. So for Aquamarine, I did get a bit too overexcited just because it is my birthstone. So I did take a lot of creative liberty when it comes to making this character and who exactly it represents. And instead of choosing a RPG class based on what I think would suit the description of Aquamarine, which is happiness and youth, I kind of just went through the list and chose one that I like the most. So of course, when I saw that gun mages exist, I went for that. So a gun mage is apparently a type of magician that instead of using traditional things like spells, books, potions, or making pacts with spirits, they somehow put spells on guns and shoot stuff with it. Like, I found that concept so hilarious that someone could just put a spell on a gun and go pew pew on, I don't know, enemies. It's just such a funny concept to me. It's so unreal. It's just because usually, or at least for me, when I think of fantasy, I think more of like bows, arrows, spears, something a bit more primordial but powerful, right? But then you see a guy at the back just sniping away. I found that completely hilarious. I love that concept. So of course I had to take it for myself, for my birthstone, and kind of give this guy a sniper made out of aquamarine. So that is actually not very practical. I'm not sure how hard aquamarines are, but this is a fantasy world. This guy is going to have an aquamarine sniper. If I say he's going to have an aquamarine sniper, and you can actually see me make it right now. I don't like drawing weapons. I'm not really good at drawing weapons, not going to lie with you guys. I draw them quite a lot, but I don't really enjoy drawing them that much. I find it really difficult to, especially a gun. I don't think I've ever drawn guns before, let alone a sniper. That was really weird. So my actual idea for this character, since he's supposedly a magician, is that he will have a magic aimbot. So you could see the little circles in front of his face. So instead of kind of like making potions and stuff, he instead uses a form of magic that allows him to, I guess, zoom in on enemies more and make sure that his aim is absolutely perfect, which is why I called it magical aimbot, kind of like Soldier 76 from Overwatch. So that's my concept for Aquamarine, a magical sniper with auto aim. Anyways, back to the crystal itself. Apparently it represents happiness and youth. And, you know, I've already made this character quite unhinged with his magical abilities, so I might as well make him look cocky. And what better way to represent that than by having a man ponytail with a slight shaven head. And to be fair, I was kind of considering drawing him to look like one of those TikTok thirst trap boys. You guys know what I mean. But I really wanted that man ponytail. I don't know why, but it was a requirement. It was a need, not a want. But then you know what? After I coloured him in, I realised that he looks so much like Sokka from Avatar, and I was panicking over it because I was like, oh my god, did I unconsciously drew Sokka? But you know what, it's fine. Seeing Sokka in a gun instead of a sword and a boomerang, it hits different. Okay, and lastly for this video, just because I'm getting tired, but I do promise I'll be making more in the future if you guys like this. But for this last part, we are going to be drawing diamond. And to me, this is such an interesting crystal because it's such a high value crystal. Like literally when you want to get married and you propose to someone, usually you propose to them with a diamond ring, right? At least that's the core concept of it in the West. But the thing is, it's such a boring piece of gem. Like if you look at your other options, there are so many other different crystals that are more interesting. But then a lot of people seem to gravitate towards some clear glass looking gem. And not gonna lie, I understand. I do see the whole kind of hype for it. I love diamonds. I love the look of diamonds. I like it when they sparkle bling bling, you know? And I guess the reason why a lot of people tend to gravitate towards diamonds when it comes to engagement rings is because they are quite hard gems. They are literally the hardest gemstones out there. So if you want something for longevity and you want to make sure that they don't scratch or break whilst you're doing your day-to-day task, you would probably want a hardy crystal, right? That keeps its shine and doesn't scratch. So I do understand why it is quite a highly sought after type of gem. And when it comes to creating a character around this particular gem, I thought immediately a knight. So knights are apparently a type of RPG characters that have both defense and offense. They often have a lot of armor and they're quite good with weapons. They're often quite fast as well. So they are a good all-around character. The only backside is that they don't have the special things like spells. And it also helps by the fact that the characteristics this particular gem represents is strength and courage, which also adds to my idea that a diamond knight might be quite a great character concept to go by. And that's what I'm doing right now. And when I was designing her armor, it made me think of a video from a couple of years back about this gentleman. I think he was some sort of character concept artist who was judging different designs of a fantasy character that wears armor. And his whole issue with it is that a lot of female characters, when drawn in armor, they don't actually have that much armor on them, that like their designs can be a bit promiscuous and sussy. But when it comes to male armor, all their armor is quite practical, they're quite streamlined, they fit the character well. It's just that more often than not, when female characters are drawn in armor, it doesn't feel as streamlined. It feels a bit too fan service. And I didn't want to be a part of that statistic. I didn't want to be put in the same kind of category as those kind of character designers that just draws, you know, an open chest plate for female characters with armor. So I definitely did armor her up quite a lot. So first, you would notice the helmet. I made sure it covers her entire face, including her mouth. Not sure how practical that would be because that's quite an old-fashioned type of armor, isn't it? Covering the mouth. But we'll keep it as is because it's fantasy. I covered her chest with armor, of course, to protect her heart and her ribs, because if you start bleeding out in those areas, you're not going to live. And lastly, I also wanted to give her a sort of big sword as well, just to show you guys what kind of weapon she would be wielding. And I think it's really cute, the kind of idea of a diamond knight. Ooh. And here they are side by side with each other, so you guys can compare what they look like to each other. And it's just really cute seeing them like this. They kind of actually look like a proper RPG party about to go on some goblin hunt. And it's also really nice to see all of the different contrasting colors. And I hope you guys liked this video, and it does take me quite a while to design the concepts for these characters and finish them. So if you really do want a part 2, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to my channel so that I know that you guys want a part 2 to this video. And as always, I'll see you all next Mango Monday. Bye!